conflict is currently playing out at the Supreme Court here in Arkansas over the role of the Chief Justice. And the specific question that's at the heart of this matter seems to largely be, what are the limits of the Chief Justice's authority? So there are 7 justices on the Arkansas Supreme Court. They are Chief Justice Karen Baker, Justice Courtney Hudson, Justice Rhonda Wood, Justice Cody Highland, Justice Sean Womack, Justice Nicholas Brawny, and Justice Barbara Webb. And these are the key players in what's happening here at the Arkansas Supreme Court. So some folks would say that this conflict at the Arkansas Supreme Court is brewing for some time, but when it most recently really became public was back in about mid-December, when Arkansas Business published an article about an incident in which Karen Baker, the Chief Justice, entered the office of the Director of the Administrative Office of the Courts, Marty Sullivan, while he wasn't present. When Marty Sullivan returned to his office later, he had reported that his office had been disheveled, and that led to the release by the Supreme Court of a memo to staff announcing 2 new rules. The first rule states essentially that a woman who's involved with the state named Allison Hatfield is not authorized to have access to non-public areas at the Justice Building unless she's accompanied by a police officer from the Arkansas Supreme Court Police, although she may be in an individual justice's chambers upon invitation by that justice. The second rule states that no justice can enter the locked offices of anyone other than their immediate staff or their immediate chamber staff's offices without permission from that individual. The conflict really begins, though, shortly after when on January 1st, Chief Justice Baker is sworn in to be the Chief Justice of the Arkansas Supreme Court. 2 days after that swearing in, she issued a memo essentially terminating 10 members of the Administrative Office of the Court staff. And those 10 members included Marty Sullivan, again, who's the Director of the Administrative Office of the Courts, and Pete Hollingsworth, who is the Chief of the Supreme Court Police. What followed that has been a series of back and forth memos, orders, and emails, largely between Chief Justice Baker and 5 justices. Those justices are Justice Sean Womack, Justice Cody Highland, Justice Rhonda Wood, Justice Barbara Webb, and Justice Brawny. Those justices, the 5 justices, issued a per curiam order stating that Justice Karen Baker did not have the authority to fire those 10 Administrative Office of the Court employees. And so the next week, those employees showed up for work just like they normally do, although Justice Baker continued to assert that she had the authority to terminate them, and they were effectively terminated. So the 5 justices issued another per curiam order on January 6th, and a per curiam, again, is basically just an order issued by the Supreme Court. They issued that order in part because they had discovered that Chief Justice Karen Baker, in the minutes after midnight on January 1st, when she was sworn in, she appointed 3 members to the Judicial Discipline and Disability Commission, and we'll get to what that is here in just a minute. And in their per curiam order, the 5 justices said that Chief Justice Baker did not have the authority to appoint those people, and instead these 5 justices reappointed 1 member and appointed 2 others of their own choosing. 2 days later, on January 8th, Chief Justice Baker issued an order of her own declaring those per curiams by the 5 justices, both the one stating she did not have the authority to fire the 10 Administrative Office of the Court's employees, and that she did not have the authority to appoint these members to the Judicial Discipline and Disability Commission. She essentially said that those per curiam orders were null and void because they did not have the authority to issue them. Then on January 14th, Marty Sullivan, again, that's the Director of the Administrative Office of the Courts, sent a request to Chief Justice Baker in an email requesting to her that she not enter the Administrative Office of the Court's offices or communicate with any of its staff. Chief Justice Baker later that day told the Democrat-Gazette that she had retained Rogers-based attorney Tom Mars, quote, to represent me in this matter. However, we're not aware of any lawsuit being filed yet. In terms of what the public had been able to see up to that point, almost all of it had been mostly limited to things like emails, memos, these orders that had been traded back and forth. But that changed on January 23rd when the Supreme Court held a business meeting that was streamed live through Zoom and on YouTube. And historically, these meetings have been closed to the public, but while she was campaigning to be Chief Justice, Baker had said that She thought that these meetings should be public and open so that folks can see the business of the courts. So during the January 23rd business meeting, the 5 justices who have largely opposed Baker in terms of the limits of her authority grilled her for a little bit more than an hour about where in the rules it states that she has the authority to do what she's been doing. And Chief Justice Baker, in her response, cited again, as she has numerous times before, that Amendment 80 gives her that authority. These 5 justices, however, contend that Amendment 80 does not state that in any way, shape, or form. Amendment 80 was approved by voters in the 2000 general election and was basically promoted as a way to end partisanship in judicial races. In recent months, though, again, justices on both sides of this have said that it either grants the Chief Justice the authorities that she's been trying to take, or it does not grant her that. And that's been an issue here that honestly remains open to this day. We've talked about Chief Justice Baker and these 5 Supreme Court justices, but there are 7 on the Supreme Court, and so there's one I've been leaving out for the most part here, and that's Justice Courtney Hudson. Like Chief Justice Baker, she has largely agreed with the Chief Justice in the various things that she said she has the authority to do, the terminating of the administrative office of the court staff and the appointing of these 3 people to the Judicial Disciplinary and Disability Commission. There's also Marty Sullivan, who is the director of the Administrative Office of the Courts. We've spoken to him several times so far. And on December 14th, he signed an 8-year contract with a base salary of $199,650 a year. The 5 justices also signed on to that contract, though Baker and Justice Hudson have said several times now that they believe this contract was illegally made. So in a nutshell, that's basically what's going on at the Arkansas Supreme Court.